Ever wonder why restaurant staff are so engaged with their work? I was wondering this too, so I listened to a TED Talk about the subject, and it made me realize something about working. The TED Talk was called A Winning Recipe: Lessons from Restaurants on Engaging Your Team by Gabriel Stillman. It was a TED Talk where he talked about 3 important strategies they used in his restaurants to be able to promote engagement among their staff. These included aligning the goals of the restaurant with the goals of the staff member, allowing for creative influence from the staff members in the establishment, and on promoting philosophy. One thing that he really said was sometimes it's more important to promote a less qualified candidate than to hire a more qualified outside candidate. He mentioned it was because of culture, and it was because you're able to then see, hey, that guy who's the manager now, he was making my drinks 5 years ago. So that way they can see there's an opportunity for growth. A lot of people don't realize this, but places are not hiring just off of your abilities. They're hiring for the person within. They're hiring for your energy. A big thing about restaurants is it's a field of a lot of passion. So when you're hiring someone, especially for an entry-level role, you're not hiring for someone who maybe can cut a little faster than the other guy. You're not hiring for some guy who's read a little more books. You're hiring the guy who gives off a positive energy, who'll be a good part of the team, someone who's willing to go the extra mile. These are more intangible assets that the interviewee has to be able to show, and the interviewer has to pick up on. That's why in restaurants it's so common to do what's called a stage, which is basically just a trial day where you try out working there, so that way the restaurant could see, what do you bring to this space? And then you can see, does this space promote my good energy? Am I able to really show what I really got at this restaurant? In business, they often say it's not what you know, it's who you know. A lot of people, when they go to a business meeting, they want to say, here's what we do, here's how we do it, and last they maybe say why they do it. But that's not what people care about, especially for big businesses. Say Apple is looking for someone to paint their mural. If they go to an artist, and the artist tells them, this is what we can do, this is how we'll do it, and this is why, Apple is looking for that personality. They're looking for you. So the first thing they want to know is, why are you doing it? At the end of the day, as humans all love stories. Why have you decided to become an artist? Why has this event in your life shaped the art you do today? Then you can tell them how you're going to do the art. And then lastly, you can tell them what you're going to do. This is a completely different approach that you wouldn't really think of. And it especially applies in creative spaces. But those working in more brick and mortar and less creative spaces have not come to this realization. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Even if you're laying bricks, they still want to know the why first. There's a common thing with statistics. If you hear 10,000 people have died, you kind of have an idea of what that number is, but it doesn't mean that much to you. If I tell you Mary, a mother of 2, has died, Joe, a firefighter, has died, Angela, who just graduated university after struggling to pay the bills, having to work 3 extra jobs to be able to make it. That's only 3 people I've just mentioned, but you already feel the severity of 3 people dying way more compared to 10,000 people. That's because I've told you something about them. I've connected a personality with the idea. And I think this is a really important thing to know. So the question is, how can you show more of your energy? I think one really important thing to know is that people love talking about themselves more. So one thing that you might want to do is you might want to focus on asking good questions. One way of doing this, even if you're not natural at this, is called the trail technique, which is where you take the last little bit of their sentence and then you go on another trail with that. Say someone tells you, I had a great weekend. I went fishing. You ask, fishing? Do you go fishing often? Oh yeah, all the time. I've been going since I was a kid. I was raised in Michigan. How was it like growing up in Michigan? Oh, it was great. I had a lot of fun. And you see, this way, even though you're not benefiting from this conversation, because a benefiting conversation is where they'll then ask you back those same questions you asked them. But in this case, you're kind of feeding their ego by asking these questions. And then by the end of that interaction, you'll have learned a good amount about them. And they'll think, look at that guy. He really pays attention to me. He really wants to hear about me. And that's one way you can share your good energy. One other thing that I heard is that energy is the only real currency. Money can buy you into places, but what keeps you around is the energy that you show off to other people. When you're looking for someone to work with, when you look for a partner, you may look for attraction, but attraction always fades. It's the energy that's within them that you really look for the rest of your life. I hope you enjoyed this video and some interesting insights, and I'll see you on the other side.